Muhammad Ali, please. Okay, while he joins us later, I have the honor of inviting the Director General of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies. He is to speak on implementing policies to drive industrialization. Please put your hands together for Professor Ayo or Motayo. A round of applause for him as he makes his way upstage. He has 20 minutes to make his presentation. All right, please put your hands together for Professor Motayo, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. May I call on everyone seated in this hall to please begin to pay attention once more. It's been a long journey getting here, and I want to believe that Manufacturers Association of Nigeria and its members will use this opportunity to let us address all the challenges that they face. We still have seated in this hall, and we are very privileged to have the Honorable Minister for Finance and the Coordinator of the Economy, Mr. Wale, is still seated. Honorable Minister, we are appreciative of your patience. We still have seated the CG of Customs. CG, we are happy you are still seated. Now, let me impose a little bit of NIPS style manual on us, because NIPS is part of this. Apart from those who are seated in the special area, may I request that everybody stands up for as long as I want. Can you please stand up if you are not seated in the special area? No, Chief, you can sit down. You are in the blue chair. No, sir. Honorable Minister, it doesn't affect you. But everybody seated on the black chair is CG of Customs. You are exempted. And any president, you are also exempted. Please, Chief, you can sit down. Honorable Minister, please have you. Every other person seated in the black chair can. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Now, this half of the hall has failed the NIPS test. When you are greeted, you must answer. So I will greet us once more. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen seated, standing up in this hall. Thank you very much. Are we aware why we are here? Do we still have the energy to continue? Now, can somebody tell us what the theme of this summit is? Somebody from the floor. Are we actually rethinking manufacturing? Do you want manufacturing to continue the way it has always been? Now, I'm making you stand up because sometimes in October last year, we invited the top echelon of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria to the National Institute. And it was the first time they were having a brainstorm session in the NIPS style. Unfortunately, I had the president there too. And once you enter NIPS, you have to follow our rules. Do you know what? We had them standing on their feet for the brainstorm session for as long as 3 hours at some sessions. So if I'm asking you to stand up, it's because your people have done something tougher than that. We kept them with us for 3 days, and every session was not less than 3 hours. And they looked at it, they actually started thinking on their feet. And of course, that is why we are here today. We assured them that all the sacrifices they made, all the punishments, let me put it, that they took will not come to nothing. That we will ensure that manufacturing gets the attention of the presidency. And that is why we are here today. We believe that this will be the beginning of new things. Let me allow you to stand up because you are not MNIs and you are not hoping to become MNIs. Can you please sit down? Please clap for yourselves. Well, when you see people wearing that yellow badge, they didn't earn it just like that. They actually always have to work for it. Before I continue, let me just say that one of the mandates of the National Institute is to think for the government. And because NIPS has, and we believe in the renewed hope agenda, we selected 6 sectors of the economy that we feel are very important to national growth and development. We did not agree with the conception that Nigeria cannot do more than 5% GDP growth per annum. We looked at it and we believe that manufacturing by itself can deliver that 5% growth per annum. But when we looked at the records of manufacturing, we found that manufacturing was only doing about 14.9% contribution to the GDP. If our economy is said to be growing at 3.2, and population is growing at 2.8%, then certainly there will be no growth, there will be no development, there will be no job opportunities for our children, and when they don't have that opportunity, we will continue to have problems. You can look at my slides. We like to just do it visual at NIPS. The slides are programmed just for 45 seconds. I'm going to ask questions at the end of the day. I'm not going to talk to it. Just look at what is on the screen. I know you are all MDs and chiefs of your companies, but I have the liberty to ask questions of my slide. But while you are watching the slide, please begin to also listen to my preachings. We have the opportunity in the next 3 days to change the fortune of manufacturing. Manufacturers, this is your opportunity to engage with the key and major stakeholders of government. If you want to complain about customs duty and the attitude of customsmen, we have brought them. The CG is here. You have an opportunity of engaging with him. The director of NAFDAC just left. She promised to be back tomorrow. If you have issues with that particular regulator, you have an opportunity of also engaging with her. Now, that is the problem as conceptualized at our brainstorm session in October. I'm not sure that got to other members of MAN. That is the conceptualization of the problem. We're trying to trace the history of manufacturing. That is the problem of manufacturing in Nigeria. Now we ask ourselves, what do we need to do? Alhaji Dangote spoke about infrastructure. He spoke about incentives. I'm sure some of those things will be speaking to either one or any of the 5 pillars. So much was said about protecting the Nigerian industrial sector. That will be done under trade policies. I spoke with someone outside just now. He spoke about special economic zones. We recognize that it is necessary. And of course, we have heard earlier that we need to look for FDI in a different way. Alhaji Dangote mentioned that we need to develop our own domestic market before foreigners will come. So the policies we'll be looking at will be drawn around those things we have mentioned. How do we sustain what we have? Short term, medium term, long term. And of course, we need a public-private partnership. I'm very sure if all of those 7 rolling mills had been privatized at the inception, the private investors would have ensured that they did not fail, because then private money would have been involved, and people don't joke with their private investments. But then, in our quest for industrialization, we have asked you to look at the caveat. If Nigeria is going to be one country, and if we are going to have even development, there must be equitable distribution of industrial benefits across the regions. Remember, we have all the 45 important minerals needed for industrialization at one point in Nigeria, at one location or the other. If we are going to be strong in our agro-industrial processing, we have to spread our industries. I mentioned earlier that there is an agency that is looking at that. At our meeting in October, we concluded that there is actually nothing that Nigeria requires for development that we do not have. That we have issues of policies, incoherence, policy somersaults. We listened to Dr. Aganga speak about people come to him, powerful people, asking that he stops the cement revolution. If he had changed, we would still have been net importers of cement. This is the epilogue. It's written in wingdings so that it can resonate and wingding in your various brains. Please, I appeal to us to see it as a one-time opportunity for us to change the fortunes of the manufacturing sector. Please let us take this 3 days engagement seriously. We have listened to Mr. President. The Honorable Minister for Finance is seated here. He is willing and ready to listen to all we have to say. Alhaji Dangote, you are welcome back, sir. So let us use this opportunity to appeal once more to manufacturers to be very, very frank in their talk. We will provide we have enabled the environment. At NIPS, we no longer talk of enabling environment. We enable the environment so that we can reach outcomes that we desire. The outcomes we want, we will get if we do what is right. I appeal to us once more. Let us discuss frankly. Let us discuss with facts. And let us take the best advantage of what we have. Everybody that is important has listened to you. Others will listen to you tomorrow. You make your cases. Let us know exactly what is wrong. I have mentioned to us, this is not a talk shop. It is serious business. There will be quarrels, there will be arguments tomorrow, I'm sure. But that is to be expected. If the truth is going to be told, even to manufacturers themselves, a whole lot of things that manufacturers do that are wrong, that we have heard from other people that they also accuse of not doing one thing or the other, let us trash all of those things out tomorrow. I have ended my paper, but as a major stakeholder in the Nigerian system, in the Nigerian project, please let us take our best advantage to ensure that manufacturing grows at the rate that Mr. Vice President spoke. We have actually calculated these things. We can do 30%. Mr. Vice President was being modest. He said 29%. If we are able to do year-on-year 5% before 2028, we will get to where we need to be. Manufacturing requires to contribute 28%, according to Mr. Vice President. We believe 30% is doable, but then the journey must start with our frank talks today. Please, I announce to us again, this is not a jamboree. This is not a talk shop. All of the government officials that are here to listen to serious business, do serious business with us, and listen to all the complaints we have. Chairman of MAN, once more, let your people know, even our private discussions, that this is serious business. It is not a talk shop. Can I have somebody take this microphone from me? Otherwise, I will keep talking. I don't know how to stop when I have the mic, and since they are not coming, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Please, a round of applause for the Director General NIPS. Please keep clapping for him as he makes his way to his seat. And he has clearly done justice by setting the tone of the conversation. Like he rightly said, this is not your usual conference, not the usual talk and move on. It is the talk and do and achieve something tangible for the manufacturing sector. And that's with the tone of the conversation we're having, which would lead to policies and would eventually be implemented to achieve success on this ground. So earlier, before the DG spoke, I had invited the representative of His Excellency Wamkele Mene of the African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat. So I believe Mr. John is here from ASCS. Please, a round of applause for him. Thank you so much. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. Again, good afternoon, and allow me to begin by introducing myself. My name is Muhammad Ali. I'm the Director for Trading Goods and Competition, and I'm here standing for His Excellency Wamkele Mene, the Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat. His Excellency, actually, he's airborne while we speak, coming to Abuja, and he will be able to join us tomorrow in the working group 5. So allow me, Honorable Minister, to stand on the already established protocol and allow me to proceed delivering the remark of His Excellency the Secretary General. First of all, I want to thank you for the privilege to speak at this year's Nigeria Manufacture Summit, themed Rethinking Manufacture in Nigeria. Leveraging the AFCFTA, this summit provides a crucial opportunity for stakeholders to address the challenges and the opportunities that lie ahead for Nigeria in the manufacturing sector. Recent data shows the resilience of the Nigerian manufacturing sector with growth rate of 3.4 in 2021 and 2.5 in 2022. Despite this progress, the sector contribution to the country's GDP remains around 10%, which underscores the urgent need for strategic reassessment to fully leverage the benefit of the African Continental Free Trade Area amid the ongoing global and domestic challenges. Manufacturers across Africa face various obstacles. These include a significant infrastructure deficit, with average total infrastructure stock at 30%, of the GDP, which is way below the World Bank recommended benchmark, which is 70%. Additionally, the high cost of inputs, ranging from raw materials to energy, labor, and transportation, alongside the financial constraints, such as limited access to affordable financing, which is a challenge that held the growth not only in Nigeria, but across Africa. That's why our heads of state and government, when they established the African Continental Free Trade Area as a flagship project of the African Union, they did not create just another market access outlet, but they created inclusive trade and industrialization catalyst. The AFCFTA provide a transformative opportunity for Nigeria manufacturing sector and the broader economy by eliminating tariffs on 97% of the goods. The AFCFTA also facilitate easier and more cost-effective export processing to have, or it will enable the access to 1.4 billion people in the African market with a combined GDP of 3.4 trillion. Excuse me. Moreover, the AFCFTA removed the trade barriers and harmonized trade policies and regulations, which reduce the business risks and fosters a more predictable environment that attract foreign direct investment into export-ready sectors such as automotive, pharmaceutical, and textile. The AFCFTA also promotes the development of continental value chains, which is a new concept that enable a various production stages to occur across the different countries, which in the same time enhance productivity and specialization among our countries. This arrangement provides Nigerian manufacturers with the opportunity to integrate into a continental value chain, shifting from commodity-based economy to a value-added manufacturing, such a transformation not only reduces vulnerability to commodity prices fluctuation, but also increase the economic resilience. If I can make further deep dive in one of the sectors that has been mentioned earlier, which is the automotive, the AFCFTA, together with Afreximbank and the Association of the African Automotive Manufacturers, AAAM, and under the supervision of our Council of Ministers of Trade, we created what we call the AFCFTA Automotive Strategy, where we communicate with many African governments and engage with many different industries, including Nigeria, to create a continental value chain and build on the financial capacities of Afreximbank and the experience of AAAM to create a continental procurement mechanism. Under such mechanism, a manufacturer of a car from South Africa, for example, or Morocco, can use the feeding industries in other countries in Africa. On the same time, the already existing SKD industries can build on the existing capacities in the market to test their CKD capabilities. That was allowed because the trade policy of the accumulation under the rules of origin of the AFCFTA, which allow any country to benefit from the existing capacities in other African countries and gain the status of Made in Africa. Excellencies and distinguished guests, there are so many reasons that trade and the industry in most cases are linked together in our countries. One of the key reasons that trade levels and numbers alone is not a destination, but a measure for industrialization and economic and social prosperity. That's why in the AFCFTA and from day one, industrialization policies and value chain development were our key priorities. In a two-way beneficial trade regime that is built on a reciprocal basis, the AFCFTA can lead to a trade diversion, where, for example, Nigeria can bargain the substitution of non-African imports to gain better market access for Nigerian exports, which would enhance the foreign currencies inflow and attract more foreign direct investment. It is therefore important for Nigerian manufacturers to familiarize themselves with the AFCFTA rules of origin to benefit from the preferential regime of the AFCFTA. These rules are essential as they define the condition under which the product qualify to be called made in Africa and to benefit from the market access under the AFCFTA, and in the same time help fighting the transshipment of non-African products into our markets. Overall, the AFCFTA presents a strategic opportunity for Nigeria manufacturing sector to broaden its market reach, enhance its competitiveness, and contribute to more diversified economy by implementing robust domestic policies aligned with the national AFCFTA implementation strategy. The AFCFTA also has initiated several programs to address production capabilities across the continent, particularly focusing on small and medium enterprises, and provide tailored financial solutions for the programs that is linked to the AFCFTA implementation. Key initiatives also include a private sector engagement strategy, which aims to establish a regional production network, starting with sectors like agriculture, agro-processing, automotive, pharmaceuticals, and transport and logistics. The Protocol on Women and Youth in Trade as well is specifically designed to empower those groups by eliminating and dismantling systematic barriers that limit their participation in trade. By focusing on small and medium enterprises, informal traders, and young entrepreneurs will be allowed to integrate in the AFCFTA programs and empowered to diversify their contribution to our economies. Furthermore, and on the financial side, the Pan-African and Payment and Settlement System, PAPS, launched in the partnership with Afri-Exim Bank in January 2022, which represent a significant advancement in the financial integration across the continent. This system connects our financial entities across Africa, enabling them to facilitate instant and secure payment in a local currency. So for the manufacturers, BAPS is a transformative and simplifying payment system, which will allow you to have access to a raw material and input in your industries using your local currencies. On the level of infrastructure, while the AFCFTA does not primarily focus on infrastructure, already ongoing initiatives are taking place to enhance transport, energy, and telecommunication across the continent. One of them that is closely linked to the Guided Trade Initiative is the creation of the AFCFTA maritime route, which is still in the study phase, but we are planning to create what we call the AFCFTA maritime route to have a maritime or vessel that is going across Africa 24/7, which will increase the level of predictability of transport and will allow us to maybe target the main issue that we have in Africa, which is the high cost of transport. Before concluding, let me provide an update on the progress of the AFCFTA in terms of number. As of May 2024, out of 54 signatories, 47 of them have ratified the agreement. And out of the 47, 42 submitted their schedule of tariff concession, which means they opened their market for business in Africa. There is only 7 countries that yet to ratify the agreement, and only 1 country remain to sign the AFCFTA agreement. This is significant because the AFCFTA, as I said at the beginning, is a flagship project of the African Union, and it is the only project of the African Union that witnessed that level of signatory and ratification in that record time. As we speak as well, we have agreed on the rules of origin of 92.4% of the rules of origin, leaving us with only some lines from textiles and some lines from automotive to be finalized. Commercially meaningful trade has been recorded among 7 countries last year. And as we speak now, we are engaging with different countries, and the number increased from 7 to 39, including Nigeria, to participate in the Guided Trade Initiative. The AFCFTA Secretariat also has been collaborating with the Nigerian AFCFTA National Action Committee to integrate the country strategic plan to implement the AFCFTA into the Guided Trade Initiative, and we anticipate very soon the full participation of Nigeria in the Guided Trade Initiative, and by that time, the Nigerian private sector will be able to access the African markets with more preferential treatment. In conclusion, let me commend the choice of the theme, Rethinking Manufacturing in Nigeria, which matched this historic opportunity for Nigeria to enhance its manufacturing sector competitiveness, innovation, and sustainability by leveraging the AFCFTA participation. Once again, we reaffirm our commitment to support Nigerian manufacturing transformation, and together we can build a prosperous and integrated Africa where Nigerian Manufacturer Association can play a pivotal role in driving economic development. I wish you all fruitful deliberation and productive summit, and I thank you.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please let's give Mr. Muhammad Ali another round of applause. For one thing, he has been able to help us manage our time. We thank you for that. Next, we are now going to call on somebody who is going to give us a presentation on facts and figures. We say these days that if you want to make policies or you want to take decisions, we ask whether it is data-driven or you are talking with facts. I listened to Alhaji Aliko Dangote this morning, and I was speaking some of the figures in the presentation. Now we have something to be presented to us to give us what actually we have on ground as a way of knowing where our gaps are and what we should be doing. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please help me to welcome Mr. Damilola Aloba to the podium. Mr. Damilola Aloba, please. He is the partner, strategy and transactions through consumer industries group leader. He works with Ernst & Young, Nigeria. You are welcome to the podium. You have 20 minutes for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Your Excellencies. I'd like to stand on existing protocols. My duty here today is to present the facts and figures on the Nigerian manufacturing sector, and just to give you some data on what has transpired over the years. So from an overview standpoint, the sector had contributed 8.81% precisely to GDP. And if you look at, so please can you present the slides? And just trying to get the slides up so that we can refer to it. Please, can you flip for me, please? Okay. Next slide. Next slide. All right. So the sector had contributed 8.81% to GDP in 2023. But some of the most important points here on this slide is the historical contribution to GDP. We looked at this from 1981 all the way to 2023. And you can see in 1981, GDP contribution of the sector was 29.57. And that had been declining all the way. Had been declining. In 1991, it dropped to 19.14. Please, can you go to the slide I'm speaking to? 19.14. And by 2001, it has further declined to 11.33. By 2011, 10 years after, 7.25. So you can see the trend that the performance has been declining over the years. So by 2021, it picked up a bit, and now we're at 88.81. The contribution of various segments of the sector as well shows that the food, beverage, and tobacco sub-segments have contributed about 50% to total GDP contribution, followed by other manufacturing, and then textile, apparel, and footwear, which contributed 18%. And the last is cement, 11%. All other data are well known to us, but this is another interesting slide. We've looked at inflation, the core macroeconomic metrics that impact on the manufacturing sector, namely inflation, interest rate, availability of foreign exchange, of course, unemployment and trade balance. So, historically, from 2018 to now, inflation had increased significantly from 14% in April to 33.69. Currently, it is 33.9. So that has created a significant negative impact on the economy, which has also necessitated the need to increase the MPR to 26.25 to curb inflation. The unification of the exchange rates in June 2023 also led to significant devaluation of the naira, which, of course, it affected the cost of imports for raw materials and machinery. The unemployment rate as well has also impacted because there are there's been impact on more people losing their jobs, more businesses not performing as expected. But if you look at the trade balance, Nigeria actually experienced more exports than imports in 2023, but yet the challenges around importing, the sector still faced significant challenges due to significant volume of imports required to meet its production needs. And of course, these macroeconomic challenges have led to increased production costs, limited capital for SMEs, and reduced competitiveness in the manufacturing sector. Now, this shows a current state of the sector. And the manufacturing value added stands at 47.33 billion. Now, we found out that manufacturing companies that experienced distress as at 2023 was 335. About 767 businesses were shut down. They shut down operations as at 2023. Furthermore, 24% of manufacturing exports to non-oil exports in 2023 was almost 25%. Now, the current state of the sector has created a lot of concerns for business owners and industrialists, manufacturers in the sector. So from unstable macroeconomic indicators, such as high inflation, to poor infrastructure, electricity challenges, high credit costs, of course, devaluation and shortage of FX. There's also the issue around multiple taxation. So the Manufacturers' Confidence Index, MCCI, which is a tool that measures the sentiment of manufacturers based on government policy initiatives and policy changes, also declined from quarter 3 in 2022 to Q4 2023, mainly because of the unstable macroeconomic conditions in Nigeria. Now, we looked at a global comparison of the manufacturing sector in Nigeria side by side with other countries: China, Egypt, South Africa, Morocco, and Malaysia. So you will notice that in terms of size, Nigeria has almost one of the, in fact, in these groups, the second largest population of 222 million. China being the first in this group. But what you will also find out is that there are differences in other parameters like GDP, manufacturing value added. So a country like Egypt that has a population of 112.72 had a manufacturing value added of 16%, which is almost double what Nigeria is doing. But if you look at Malaysia, who has a population of 34.3, the manufacturing value add is 23%, while Nigeria has 8.81. Same goes with Morocco, an African country, 15% value added, population of 37.84, Nigeria value added of 8.81, and population of 222 million. And then furthermore, we looked at the percentage contribution of the manufacturing exports to total exports. And you realize that Nigeria is at a mega less than 10%. This is not a good comparison, because it shows that the sector is struggling. It's really struggling. And then if you look at the percentage contribution of the manufacturing sector to GDP, using the same countries, a lot of them, including the African countries that we might even say we are in the same continent, they are doing far better than Nigeria. Nigeria is doing below 10%, while most of them are doing far above that, 20% in some instances, and a lot more. So clearly, the extant policy initiatives in Nigeria, are not having a positive effect or a positive impact on the sector. And they need to be properly interrogated and reevaluated. Because when you continue to make policies and they're not achieving those results that we expect, we need to look into them again. However, in broader terms, the Nigerian manufacturing sector could be said to be on life support because it is currently struggling for survival. And it might even go into extinction with the risk of the country becoming a mere trading hub, which we don't want. We don't want this nation to just be a country where we're just buying and selling, or we're not producing anything. This is dangerous for us. Now, we looked at certain case studies to say that, look, what are the strategies that these countries are adopting in order to be able to industrialize? If you look at China, there's implementation of certain favorable policies, such as special economic zones, which gladly Nigeria is also doing. So it's not all that we are bad. It's not all that we don't know the policy initiative. We don't know the things to do or the strategies to adopt. We clearly do. But the question is, how are we ensuring that these policies achieve the desired results? So in other countries like Malaysia, there are tax holidays, subsidies, development of industrial parks, which we also do in Nigeria. South Africa, policies to promote use of locally produced inputs. In Morocco as well, free zones and tax exemptions, and Egypt's creation of special economic zones as well. So some of these countries that have been said by other speakers in the morning, many of them have 5-year plans that focuses on certain areas of the economy. Some of them have a 5-year plan on electronics, focusing extremely on electronics. Some on automotives like China and machinery. Malaysia focuses, they've diversified fully towards high-tech industries. In Nigeria, we have long-term plans for agro-processing, metals, and all of that. South Africa, they focus on automotives, chemicals, and agro-processing, while Morocco, automotives, aerospace, electronics, and Egypt, textiles, engineering products, and the like. But some of the other things they've done is human capital development and infrastructure development, which is key. We need to develop our human capital to make them achieve the desired production or level of productivity that we expect. And then trade and export promotions happen to be one of the critical strategies that they've all adopted. So moving on from there, so what are the challenges that we can summarize to be limiting the performance of the manufacturing sector? Insufficient funding, I don't need to repeat what have been said. Insufficient funding, infrastructure development, skills shortage, inefficient supply chains, dependence on imported raw materials, and insecurity. But what is also important here, if you look at the map, is that about 3 trillion was spent on raw material importation in 2023. That says a lot. So we need to look at all of that as part of what are the limiting factors for the economy. And then the conditions for revitalizing the economy are straightforward. Access to finance. It's been reiterated here today. Infrastructure development, market access and trade facilitation, quality standards and certifications, human capital development. So we also think that the Nigerian manufacturing sector stands to benefit tremendously from the African Continental Free Trade Area, which has been reiterated by the last speaker. And some of the things we can do in order to be competitive in that regard is to improve product quality so that our products get to wider markets, African market, global markets, and they are of the right standard and they are acceptable. Cost reduction, we need to ensure that we are efficient in our manufacturing processes, and we need to leverage economies of scale and ensure that our pricing is also competitive. Supply chain optimization, we need to optimize, streamline our supply chain and reduce delays and costs and improve logistics. Raw material sourcing can be done locally, and we invest in the right infrastructure. Building brand recognition also needs to happen, collaboration and partnerships, and of course, government needs to support the manufacturing sector. Now, from a futuristic standpoint, we've said a lot, so I don't want to repeat some of these things, but we believe that environmental, social, and governance in the manufacturing sector is key. We need to address the growing need for ESG. The reality is that the manufacturing sector is increasingly recognizing the importance of ESG principles in driving sustainable growth and addressing stakeholder expectations. As global awareness of environmental and social issues intensifies, manufacturers face growing pressure to adopt responsible practices. So what are the benefits of integrating ESG into our operations and manufacturers? The regulatory compliance and avoidance of penalties and fines, access to capital and investment opportunities will come up once we start adopting ESG practices, operational efficiencies and cost savings, and of course, long-term sustainability. Lastly, what recommendations do we want to give the federal government to revitalize the manufacturing sector in Nigeria? One is budgetary allocation. There's need to utilize the 2024 budget and future budgets to sustain efforts at improving infrastructure development in strategic industrial hubs. There's also the need to expand cost savings from fuel subsidy removal to combat pressures from insecurity, energy, and transportation costs. There's need to promote made in Nigeria products. We need to promote made in Nigeria, local sourcing of raw materials and prioritize the patronage of made in Nigeria products for government contracts and projects. For foreign exchange, we need to maintain all measures to boost the level of liquidity and degree of transparency in the official forex window. There's need to ensure that the CBN honors all foreign exchange forward contracts backed by compliant trade documents. For FDIs and interest rates, for FDIs, we need to encourage the inflow of FDIs into predetermined and domestic production-based businesses. There's need to develop a clear-cut framework to promote the provision of long-term single-digit interest rates to the manufacturing sector. And as it relates to taxes, they need to build a well-organized and formal service sector to widen the tax net and avoid multiple imposition of taxes on the manufacturing sector. Then there's need to grant tax holidays to manufacturing companies to ease the burden of wage increases and rise in transportation allowance occasioned by the fuel subsidy removal. Lastly, energy reforms. There's need to overhaul the power sector and incentivize investment in renewable energy. There's need to conduct a transparent review of the electricity tariff structure, ensuring that it reflects the true cost of production while being fair and sustainable for both businesses and consumers. At this point, I'll end my presentation. Thank you very much for listening.
Ladies and gentlemen, please let's give him another round of applause. When he was coming on, I told you he would be coming with facts and figures, and we were hoping that this will help us in decision making. As they said that if you forget your past, you will forfeit your future. He's been able to take us back to the past, talked about the present, and he also talked about himself being futuristic. I believe some of the issues he has raised will be concerning many of us that are seated here today. Today is not the opportunity for us to discuss all this, but tomorrow will give us ample time to dissect and interrogate most of the points that we have been presented with. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we started this afternoon session while expecting the Deputy Chief of Staff to the President, Office of the Vice President, to join us. And now that he's here, I will quickly call him to spend a few minutes to give us the perception. He was actually supposed to be introducing us to this session, but since we have started this session, we want to hear his perspective. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please help me to welcome the silent achiever, Senator Ibrahim Adejia, to the podium. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, I was supposed to introduce the Vice President, who was supposed to read out his remarks for the occasion. But he came this morning to represent the President, and the MAN team kept him here for almost 2 hours, which disrupted his other programs. So he has asked me to kindly read his message and to assure you that though he is not here, he's with you in spirit. And having participated in the planning for this event, I'm sure you are all aware that the Vice Presidency is an integral part of not just the summit, but some of the decisions and implementation that will come later. So without much ado, I would like to rest on the protocols established and re-established all morning and read the Vice President's remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, the manufacturing sector has endured a series of setbacks over the past decades. Yet what is even more significant is that despite these challenges, you have continued to play the crucial role in building a nation driven by production and abundance. I'm here today to remind you that we are together in this quest to turn around the fortunes of Nigeria. For a continent that has languished at the bottom of the global value chain, with its share of global manufacturing at less than 2%, we have no better alternative than supporting our indigenous firms to produce locally and increase their capacity. This summit provides an avenue to reassess the challenges confronting the sector and the solutions we need to adopt to resolve them. Based on what I've seen during our tour of the exhibitions, I'm more convinced than ever of our industrial capability, creativity, and innovation. This tour is the ultimate proof that our manufacturers are relentless in their pursuit of excellence and share our belief that the manufacturing sector is the backbone of the economy. Our proposal to minimize the economic imbalances in the nation is based on strengthening the production base of our economy, particularly in manufacturing. Most of our setbacks as a nation, as each of you know, are due to the overdependence on imports for even our basic necessities. That is why we need to work together to address the various challenges facing the sector and ensure that we have a competitive manufacturing sector. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our gathering here over these 3 days is a reminder of the critical role manufacturing plays in driving the nation's wealth, job creation, living standards, and revenue generation. It is essential to expedite the delivery of infrastructural projects that will enable the sector to leap forward and thrive. This is why His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's focus on roads, ports, and energy supply is strategic. From increasing investment in renewable energy sources to committing on improving transmission infrastructure to reduce the cost of power, we are united in this transition to safeguard the economy. We are establishing MSME clinics across the nation to serve as incubators for small businesses and provide alternative financing. These clinics align with the 5 pillars of this summit, which serve as a clear roadmap for revitalizing the sector. These pillars are critical, and it is imperative that we begin enacting meaningful change and developing our industries by addressing critical issues under each of them. The first pillar emphasizes upscaling productivity and competitiveness. We must be prepared to remove binding constraints and to activate supportive infrastructure and policy measures. The second pillar focuses on energy security and infrastructure development, which are also vital to the advancement of manufacturing. The other 3 pillars are improving the macroeconomic environment and ease of doing business, promoting made-in-Nigeria products and local content development, and leveraging regional and continental trade for export development. Taken together, these 5 pillars present the quickest path to the manufacturing transformation that we seek to implement. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I implore us all to leverage this summit to develop an actionable roadmap and policy framework ready for immediate implementation. To create the changes we want in the manufacturing sector And I assure you that we shall always maintain an open door policy to accommodate your needs and expectations. Thank you, and may God bless us all.
Thank you. As you were rightly ascribed, the silent achiever. Please, a round of applause for the silent achiever as he makes his way to his seat. Thank you so much, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It's been quite a day, and I'm glad that we are gradually coming to a close. It keeps getting better by the minute. Before I invite the next speaker, I'd like us to please kindly be on our feet. Could we do that, please? Let's all be on our feet. You know, there are certain powers you have when you handle the microphone. Clearly, we've been sitting for too long, and I think it's good that we stretch to gain presence of mind, because the next presentation is one that is very crucial and important for us to gain insight, and we need to grasp every message the Honorable Minister is sharing today. So could you actually exchange pleasantries with 3 people you've not met at this forum? Just shake at least 3 people. Let's do that quickly. Move from your seat, shake somebody, appreciate the person, thank the person for coming. All right. Thank you so much. It's indeed an interesting day, and we're clearly rethinking manufacturing. And so please kindly have your seat. Thank you so much for complying. Kindly have your seats. So I have the singular honor of inviting the next speaker to make his presentation, and he's no other person than the Honorable Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy. Please, a round of applause for Mr. Olawale Edun. A round of applause for him, please, as he makes his way upstage.
Good afternoon. His Excellency, the Vice President, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Kashim Shettima, CON, ably represented by the Deputy Chief of Staff to Mr. President, the man of courage, boldness, determination, a man of wealth, the #1 industrialist and businessman in Africa, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, President Dangote Industries, President of Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, DG Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, and all the executives of MAN, as well as the organizing committee of this summit. Very well done. So far, so good. And I'm sure there's even better to come over the next couple of days or so. I think this is a very important time, a very important summit. You know, the young man, he gave us, Damilola Aloba, he gave us figures from 40 years ago, when Nigeria's manufacturing sector was contributing 30% of GDP. It was probably, I don't know, maybe in primary school or infant school then. But he's come to find a situation where manufacturing growth or manufacturing as a percentage of GDP is less than 10%. But you know, I wonder, because I remember those times. A manufacturer benefited from and I'm trying to choose my word, benefited from favorable fixed for a long time, exchange rate, benefited from low fixed interest rates. There was allocation of credit, allocation of foreign exchange through importation. So what you may wonder is, would that system still have taken us further than the alternative that we pursued? And it's a question for the economic historians, but we have to remember the conditions that gave manufacturers such a prominent role in the economy, to the extent that they were providing 30% of GDP. Privileged access to foreign exchange, privileged access to credit, and in this talk of protection, it's a guess as to whether, if you had picked the right champions then and provided them that privileged access, whether it would have benefited us much better and put us in a much better standing today. But as it was then, there was a lot of people just benefited from that system. So here we are now, rethinking manufacturing. And they are rethinking it all over the world. So whereas you may not have backed protectionism some time back, the way the world is today, globalization, huge flows of trade and production all around the world, and global marketing, global production, and sales of products has stopped. There's a movement back from globalization. Each country is trying to produce as much as it can in its own country or its own region. Huge subsidies. We have Director General of the World Trade Organization, is one of our finest and one of our best, and a former, as we know, Minister of Finance and coordinating Minister of the Economy, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. And she has a tough role at a time when there is a retreat from world trade. Before, that was the theory, that world trade will get you there. Now there is a retreat. There are huge subsidies going into manufacturing all over the world. So when Alhaji Aliko Dangote says manufacturing should be a priority, and the Vice President says that we will protect domestic manufacturers, it is actually in line with what is going on around the world now. And it's also an important time in our own journey, our own reform process. An international journalist, he asked me just a couple of days ago, he said, look, what's going on in Nigeria? Is it that we are now at a point where India was under the current president or prime minister, where it then moved ahead? Are we at a point where, at a time, Indonesia was, where within a decade they built $1 trillion economy? Or is it that we are just having no plan? I believe it is the former. And people here were present at a town hall meeting last year after Mr. President won the election and he was president-elect. And I remember then there are people who are in this room and they said, manufacturers, number one thing we want you to resolve is go out and solve this foreign exchange issue. There is no liquidity in the market. It is organized in a way which is inefficient, opaque, and gives us no access to foreign exchange. Today, that has been done. Mr. President, through the monetary authorities at that time, put in place a market-based willing buyer, willing seller mechanism as a better alternative to what he met. And it took the courage, the boldness of that, and as we know, other macroeconomic measures in order to lay the foundation for where we are today. You know, the prescriptions of the likes of Ernst and Young and others were infrastructure that you have to. Sorry, my slides have gone off. Maybe I can get some help. But no doubt, I think you've seen enough of if I press it anymore, we're about 4 pages ahead. So I'm trying to go slowly and assume that it's a delayed reaction. But when you talk of that you need to, it's gone to 2 pages. When you talk of the need for okay. When you really talk about what do we need, the prescriptions we saw, infrastructure. The biggest infrastructure program that this country has seen for decades is underway currently. When you talk about the incentives that industry, that manufacturing needs, Mr. President, under his Presidential Economic Coordination Council, instructed and mandated and directed that a team made up of his economic management team, the subnationals, the governments, and the private sector, including MAN, including NASIMA, get together and formulate a plan to stabilize the economy and provide a basis for support, particularly for large-scale industry. That plan is ready. The Presidential Economic Coordination Council meets in about 2 days' time. And thereafter, it is my conviction that Mr. President will roll out a range of incentives, fiscal policies, fiscal measures, and other financial and other regulatory incentives that support manufacturing, that support creation of employment, and that support access to resources, including raw materials for the industry, not to talk of the type of protection against unfair policies that that industry needs. So, improving the macroeconomic environment. As we've already spoken about the foreign exchange market. We've already spoken about the other incentives that Mr. President has put in place. But let us also look at the perspective that behind the scenes, underneath what we are able to see, there is a total reorganization and revamping of the revenues of government. Technology has been applied to put in place a revenue-generating exercise that is making sure that government gets the revenue that it should get from all the ministries, departments, and agencies that are revenue generating. It's taken from them automatically. Not just in Naira, there are foreign exchange revenues which previously were even unknown, not to talk of not collected by government. Those are being collected. And that's the fundamentals of the macroeconomic environment that we need. We needed the revenue. The same in the oil sector. Our number one source of funding for growth, for development, for industrialization is oil revenues. And so in the conversation about climate change and so forth, we have to be one of those taking a very realistic attitude that we need to use our wealth, our fossil fuels, to develop our economy. Climate change, for which we have very little responsibility, cannot now impose a cost on us that stops us using our fossil fuel wealth, oil and gas, to develop our economy. I think that's the stance that we need to take. In terms of enabling doing business, of course, ease of doing business is critical, but we have a special organization under Mr. Vice President, that deals with that. I'll talk about that briefly. Integrating ESG, the Ernst & Young presenter emphasized as best as anybody can the importance of ESG. These days, a lot of the financing that is available worldwide is available to companies that are compliant in terms of their environmental policies, in terms of their social policies, and in terms of the quality of their governance. And so I'm sure you, as top-class manufacturers and businessmen, are very much aware of that. It's going the other way now. Okay. So, improving access to capital for manufacturers. As I mentioned, there are going to be a range of measures rolled out in the very near future that provide additional access to manufacturers. Already, there has been funding, 200 billion naira provided to SMEs, nano industries, and other small-scale manufacturers through the Bank of Industry. And that process is dealing with the issue of high cost of capital, because it's providing funding at 9%. We heard earlier today that in the market rates are 30%. That funding is being provided at 9% to small and medium-scale manufacturers. Clearly, there are none here, otherwise they'll be clapping for themselves and happy with themselves. As I said, for the large-scale industrialists, and you know, the small scale, today we visited a stand. The businesswoman was making chin-chin. And you know, when you have high elevated interest rates, exchange rates, it protects you. It protects local production against imports because, of course, imports become more expensive. So local producers have a huge opportunity. Instead of buying snacks and importing them from wherever, the local producers now have a market because the foreign goods are no longer there. The demand is still there. You have over 200 million Nigerians, so the demand is there for snacks or whatever. And that's the kind of opportunity that is available in Nigeria of today. To reduce the high cost of transportation, as we know, CNG, we have pivoted to CNG fuel and also electric fuel for vehicles and for generating cells. The government does not buy vehicles except they are CNG powered or CNG fueled or electric powered or solar powered. And that is a huge market opportunity for businessmen. The foreign exchange issues, there was one mentioned regarding our standings. It's a central bank, the governor of central bank is not here yet or is not here today, but the foreign exchange issue is largely in the remit of central bank But one thing that the fiscal side that the government is doing is looking to attract all sources of foreign exchange, including foreign exchange that is in the diaspora. You know, the world is turning insular, and we need to rely on ourselves, not just for food production, not just for the goods and services that we require, but also we need to be self-reliant across the board. And foreign exchange is a key part of that. Nigeria has a large diaspora. Nigerians in Nigeria are holding huge reserves of, substantial reserves of foreign exchange. And so we are looking at ways and means at which those funds can be attracted from abroad to support what is going on in Nigeria. In terms of trade, the major initiative to facilitate and improve trade is the National Single Window. It's an e-community, technology-driven, extremely complex process, which has been, for years, there has been an attempt to implement it. Under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, it is not only been implemented, it has gone far in the key stages and will soon reach a stage where the experts to actually implement the system are procured, and the process then moves to implementation stage. We've talked so much about protecting local manufacturers from unfair competition. That is the commitment of the government, not to allow people to be able to inefficiently produce against barriers that just protect them and shortchange the public. No. But to protect against unfair international competition, certainly. In a day or two's time, the tax systems, the new fiscal reform, and the new tax measures that Mr. President has for you as manufacturers and Nigerians as a whole will be rolled out. And in there are many of the things that you are looking for to assist you at this difficult time. Because as we all know, we don't need to overemphasize it, the kind of reform that we have undergone has with it its own teething issues. There's consumer credit coming, there's a consumer credit core, it's already set up, it's already taking applications so that individuals can afford to buy and pay over a period of time for goods. In terms of ease of doing business, we do have PEPEC, the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council. And it's critical. The work they are doing is nitty-gritty. I'm sure Dr. Jumoke Uduwole, who is the special advisor to Mr. President in the office of the Vice President on PEPEC, will take you through. They were set up in 2016. Their mandate is to deliver on the ease of a better business environment. They are doing so agency by agency, ministry by ministry. They have a very hands-on process which many organizations have bought into. They've been able to energize institutions. They've been able to encourage them to participate in making themselves better. And that is going on very, very well. I think I've talked enough about the reforms that have been put in place, about the measures that are being taken. So if you go back to what Ernst & Young had put on there, there's hardly anything up there that you do not tick the box. But let us be honest with ourselves with regard to the reforms, the initiatives, and interventions that are being rolled out and have been rolled out. Mr. Shegun Aganga, former minister, said the implementation is key. There is, even on the social side, we're talking today about manufacturing, but in agriculture, there's been key reforms rolled out to increase agricultural production, to provide affordable and available foodstuffs. But the capacity to implement those efficiently is a big part of the equation. It is not just to be able to devise a very good policy. The implementation is key, and that capacity is being built up. So, for instance, with direct transfers to help the poorest and the most vulnerable, when that program started, it had to be stopped. It had to be stopped in favor of integrity and in favor of transparency. And a new process has started, and so those funds are being rolled out. Likewise, CNG, the opportunity to benefit from fueling your car, fueling buses at 30% of the cost of petrol is there. I know Alhaji Aliko Dangote is selling us, he's providing us with diesel and probably petrol. Anyway, we hope he'll sell it to us in Naira anyway. But really, we are pivoting with the rest of the world to cleaner and more efficient and hugely cheaper fuels. But you say, where are the buses? Where are the CNG conversion kits? You cannot throw away all decorum because you are in a hurry to get these kits in. There has to be a procurement process that is in line with government regulations, otherwise you lose the integrity of the whole process. And I think I will, I must point out that huge effort is also being made in the area of power. Apart from the fact that there is a push to encourage a willing buyer, willing seller model so that more private investment can come into the power distribution sector in particular, but then the whole value chain in general, in order to provide businesses with captive, what we call captive power, where they can agree with a supplier that we are willing to pay this price. It's much cheaper than self-generation. That is a critical element. And there's a commitment to get to 6,000 megawatts of distributed power. We're currently at about 4,000, so that is 33% more power for industry and, of course, for households. And then finally, we are at a stage where I'm sure, and I know from what we heard the last time we had a town hall meeting with the manufacturers and other stakeholders, but particularly the business elite, there was very little hope in their minds. And they said major, and everybody could see the major moves that had to be made. And you had to have someone with the leadership skill, with the courage, with the determination to do what everybody could see needed to be done. That has been done. That is progress, because we will be in a much, much worse place now if those very, very key macroeconomic measures had not been taken. Second to that, we had always, I remember in campaigns, you may even say, not even just the last political campaign, but even before, if you look at the manifestos, they talked about the major infrastructure development program across the country. That is what is happening now. You have major highways that link villages, towns, cities, dams, areas, regions from north to south and west to east in Nigeria going on at this moment. and they keep putting it up there. Infrastructure, it is being done. You do it highway by highway, road by road, rail by rail. When we want to talk about what manufacturers want, I think it would have been nice to have it unveiled for you on a day like this. But what I can assure you is that with the cooperation of you, the businessmen, of the state governors, and of course of the President's economic management team, a policy, an accelerated stabilization and advancement plan has been put in place, and I'm sure when the Presidential Economic Coordination Council meets in a couple of days, Mr. President will roll out measures that will gladden the hearts of you businessmen, make life easier for you, better and cheaper access to capital, improved tax regime, and also an improved regime in terms of regulations and incentives such as import duty. Thank you.
Thank you so much, the Honorable Minister of Finance and the Coordinating Minister of the Economy. Thank you for that brilliant presentation, Mr. Olawale Edo. Please, a round of applause for him once again. Thank you, sir. All right, the next presentation we'll be listening to also has to do with finance. And we have the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria to do that presentation. And his representative would be leading us. Please put your hands together for Mr. Ezra Kure as he steps forward. Mr. Ezra Kure. All right, it's coming forward. Please, a round of applause for him as he comes forward to make this presentation. Welcome, sir. You have 15 minutes.
You guys gave me the same. Okay.
Is he exactly the same?
Yeah, but let me just see how I can.
Maybe just touch on it.
That's fine. So, good afternoon. I would just like to rest on the existing protocol in view of the time that we have spent just to speak on some of the few issues that we have.
Can you use this one?
Yeah. Okay. So my name is Ezra Kure. I was drafted just at the last minute to stand in for my director to read this statement by the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria. And I would just like to take your permission to read through the statement. Your Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Ahmed Bola Tinubu, GCFR, Honorable Minister, Industry, Trade and Investment, other ministers present, representatives of ministries and agencies of government, esteemed partners from Ernst & Young, multilateral and regional partners, members of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, the heads of corporate entities, and other industry experts, policymakers, chairman of the occasion, other dignitaries present, members of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. The theme, Rethinking Manufacturing, is timely and crucial as we seek to address the challenges and leverage the opportunities in this pivotal sector of our nation's economic development. The summit, therefore, is a vital platform for stakeholders to engage in meaningful dialogue and forge collaborative strategies that will drive the sector forward. Our journey towards becoming a thriving industrialized nation hinges on our ability to transform the manufacturing sector, enhance our economic framework, and foster a business-friendly environment. In an era marked by social rapid technological advancements and global economic shifts, the need to rejuvenate our manufacturing sector is more pressing than ever. This transformation is necessary and urgent as it will define our economic resilience and global competitiveness. The manufacturing sector is pivotal in any prosperous nation. It is a significant driver of employment and a catalyst for technological innovation, productivity improvements, structural transformation, and economic growth. The sector creates an avenue for import substitution and export expansion, enhancing foreign exchange earnings. The potential for backward linkages helps facilitate the transformation of an economy from a basic agrarian structure to an industrial one. Countries have leveraged manufacturing as a critical driver for economic growth. For instance, China's rapid economic transformation and economic development over the past few decades has been significantly driven by its manufacturing sector, accounting for over 30% of its national output. In most Southeast Asian countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, Taiwan, Thailand, and South Korea, the sector has been a major source of employment and foreign exchange earnings. Most of these economies have implemented policies and programs that support technological innovations and creating industry technology institutes, which have helped transform their economies. Nigeria's manufacturing sector has long been recognized as a critical economic growth and development engine, yet recent decades have shown a decline in its performance and competitiveness. In recent times, manufacturing sector has not been encouraging, recording 3.4, 2.45, and 1.4% growth in 2021, 2022, and 2023 respectively. In addition, the National Bureau of Statistics has confirmed that exports has also been dismal from the manufacturing sector, representing a mega 2.96 and 1.97% of total exports in 2022 and 2023 respectively, significantly lower than other countries where manufacturing companies comprises over 70% of exports. The manufacturing sector lacks depth, as most of its growth is driven by few sub-sectors made up of mainly consumer goods. The poor performance of the sector has been compounded by unfavorable global and domestic environment. Despite these challenges, the industry has shown remarkable resilience and adaptability, underscoring the ingenuity and determination of Nigerian manufacturers. Therefore, realizing its potentials requires a comprehensive reevaluation and strategic overhaul of our process and policies. We must rethink our approach to significantly upscale manufacturing performance in Nigeria, as it represents the principal way of greatly increasing labor productivity and raising standards of living. The imperative of rethinking manufacturing in Nigeria is not merely a matter of economic strategy, but a profound journey of transformation, resilience, and progress. Nations are developing new ways to boost manufacturing output by adopting advanced technologies. Thus, we must leverage automation, artificial intelligence, advanced robotics, the Internet of Things, and data-driven processes to optimize the efficiency and create high-value products. However, technology is just one piece of the puzzle. We must therefore provide a conducive business atmosphere and improving the macro environment and facilitating the ease of doing business. This pillar serves as the bedrock upon which the edifice of a robust, dynamic, and globally competitive manufacturing sector can be erected. Therefore, as stakeholders, we all have various roles to play so that the Nigerian manufacturing sector can not only survive, but thrive in this dynamic global environment. Distinguished guests, you will all agree with me that in recent times, the global macroeconomic environment has been confronted by significant headwinds, including geopolitical tensions, disruption in the global supply chain, inflation, among others. The consequences of these challenges reverberates in developing countries like Nigeria, affecting manufacturing production and other things. To unlock these potentials of the manufacturing sector, we must reassess our strategies and implement comprehensive reforms to promote stability, predictably in business planning, and invest confidence. To create a sound macroeconomic environment and foster manufacturing growth, we must implement sound fiscal policies that prioritize the provision of critical economic infrastructure as well as supply-side policies to ease productivity, efficiency, and aggregate supply. Furthermore, a robust monetary policy framework that controls inflation and ensures exchange rate stability is imperative for a thriving economy. It is important to emphasize that strategic capital investment, particularly in power, transportation, and logistics, will result in a more efficient and more interconnected infrastructure network that could engender significant reduction in production costs, improvement in the overall competitiveness of the Nigerian economy. Distinguished guests, you will all agree that as stakeholders, the current regime has focused on ensuring a conducive business environment. The Central Bank of Nigeria has also been rethinking policies to resolve the challenges confronting the manufacturing sector and the Nigerian economy at large. The bank has returned to its traditional monetary policy approach, focusing on attaining price stability and fostering sustainable economic growth for Nigeria. To effectively deliver on this, the bank is transiting to an inflation targeting framework to fulfill its core mandates, a common practice among central banks. The goal is to maintain price stability, which is essential for human welfare, business confidence, manufacturing, and sustainable economic growth. The bank is taking every necessary step to address heightened inflationary pressure, a major factor influencing manufacturing costs, through high input prices. The significance of maintaining low and stable inflation for business and manufacturing cannot be overemphasized. We must therefore adopt and use tools and instruments to curtail rising inflation that has become a menace to the growth of our dear economy. The sources of inflation of Nigerian manufacturing and economic future hinges on ensuring price stability and fostering a more diversified economy. The central bank's effort to control inflation will be crucial, but this should be balanced with promoting business investment for long-term growth. Furthermore, there are ongoing efforts to stabilize the foreign exchange rate and grow foreign reserves. One of the major policy thrusts of the CBN is the pursuit of a willing seller and willing buyer's exchange rate regime. The recent exchange rate reform, designed to streamline and harmonize multiple exchange rates, is crucial for the elimination of limited distortions and uncertainties in the foreign exchange market. This unification aligns with global best practice in promoting transparency and reducing arbitrage opportunities. This effort will improve access to foreign exchange sourcing for imports of raw materials and machinery by manufacturers and ensuring stability. It is also pertinent to note that the fiscal authority has a crucial role to play, and I guess the Honorable Minister of Finance has articulated extensively on some of the fiscal reforms that have been put in place. And we do hope that they would significantly push us to the level that we desire as a nation. Facilitating collaboration between the government and private sector holds the potential to spark creative solutions that drive the advancement of manufacturing sector. Through working together, we can lay our groundwork for establishing industrial clusters. We can lay the groundwork for enabling companies in the same industry to flourish by leveraging shared infrastructure and services. Additionally, prioritizing research and development can result in technological breakthroughs that enhance productivity and competitiveness. I hope this will be one of our takeaways from this summit, that is, exploring improved collaboration between private and public sectors in driving research and innovation to, to stimulate the sector. Dear participants, the huge positive implications of a robust manufacturing sector cannot be overemphasized. New jobs will be created from factory floors to logistic companies, which will generate income, foster consumer spending, and powering economic growth. Imagine the vibrancy of our markets, the opportunities for youth, and the overall rise in standard of living, all fueled by a surging manufacturing sector. Secondly, a strong manufacturing base will allow us to break free from the shackles of dependence. Instead of relying solely on imported goods, we can produce our own, save valuable foreign exchange that can be reinvested in other vital sectors in the economy. Beyond import substitution, Nigeria-made products can take center stage in the global marketplace. We can showcase our ingenuity and craftsmanship, diversify our export base, and become less vulnerable to the whims of the oil market. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, once again, I must commend the organizers, participants, and all relevant stakeholders for their dedication in partnering to organize the summit to reflect on contemporary issues affecting the manufacturing sector in Nigeria. Your collaboration, insights, and shared commitment are essential for fostering the growth of the manufacturing sector due to its pivotal role in the nation's economy. Let us begin today to renew our commitment to transformative growth, leveraging our collective strength to build a robust and dynamic manufacturing sector for our dear country. However, as stated earlier, this critical juncture presents challenges and opportunities. We must therefore acknowledge these realities to move forward. I would like to wish us all a very productive deliberation and engagement, as well as an enjoyable stay in the Federal Capital Territory of Abuja. Thank you for your kind attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please put your hands together for Mr. Kure, Mr. Ezra Kure from the Central Bank of Nigeria. All right, it's been an interesting day, and it's good that we're calling it close. So, Yoruba, of course, my name is Omotayo Okeomi, and there's a saying in Yoruba that says, Egunlani Keyin Gbale. It means that to wrap up something great, the big masquerade will show forth and cap all the conversations we're having today. And the big masquerade I'm referring to in this room is one who is very critical to the manufacturing sector. As a matter of fact, his activities is intrinsic to the success of manufacturers, and we're happy to have him in person in our midst to address us as we rethink manufacturing. Distinguished manufacturers in the house, please, with a resounding applause, let's make welcome the Controller General of Customs, Mr. Adewale Adeniyi, as he speaks on leveraging regional and continental trade for export development. Please put your hands together, manufacturers, for the big masquerade in the room. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm not too sure I know anything about masquerade, otherwise I would be speaking in a masquerading voice. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I know I'm running a risk because I'm the last speaker and time is far gone. So I'll start by managing this time well, by adopting the protocols which has been established by all the previous speakers today, particularly that of my chairman of the Nigeria Customs Service Board, the Honorable Minister of Finance. I am indeed very, very happy to be here to share my thoughts on the need for us to rethink manufacturing. And this is very important because of the critical importance of the manufacturing sector. It is very important for the diversification and the growth of our economy. And it is imperative that we continually reassess and improve our strategies to foster this vital industry. The fact is well known and established by the sustained attention that the government has given to the sector over these years that we must focus our attention on this sector. This commitment is entrenched in the policy direction of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu-led administration, which not only seeks to positively transform the sector, but also to promote our export products. And attached to this is the fact that there exists a lot of opportunities for us in the African continental free trade area. I therefore set for myself some basic objectives in this paper. The first one is that I want to share my insight into some of the existing incentives and the opportunities for manufacturers. You know some of them, and I'm happy that the minister also mentioned that in some few days, some additional incentives are going to be unfolded. And I also like to provide a detailed overview of the current state of play, at least from the perspective of the Nigeria Customs Service. We get a number of data periodically released by the Bureau of Statistics. But then in our system, we also do have the situation of what the state of manufacturing is, and I will be sharing some of those with you. And based on that, I intend to draw a number of deductions from the data that we are going to be seeing. I hope that they'll be able to put up this as my presentation progresses. And it is on the basis of those deductions that I will I'll pass some few messages. Perhaps some of those messages may not sound very sweet to our ears, but they represent a fair deduction that we can get from the data that we have. Now, let me start with some existing incentives, which are very clear to some of us. And the first major one is about the fiscal policy measures of government. Okay, you can move clearly because of, okay. The first one we can talk about are provided as duty exemptions and concessions on machineries and equipment. Those items of Chapter 84, 85, and Chapter 90 of the ECOWAS Common External Tariff. Some of these equipments are related to those that we use in agriculture, solid minerals, irons and steel, power, automobile, including the tire manufacturing sector and the textiles. The next one is the LPG plants establishment. These are institutionalized concessions that are provided for in the tariff. The third, the minister talked about it, is the ongoing initiative, the Presidential Gas for Growth initiative, under which most of the critical items that are required for transformation into LPG are rated duty-free. We also have in the health and medical sector a lot of measures which are implemented to combat the spread of COVID-19, the granting of a number of duty exemptions on essential medical supplies, pharmaceuticals, medical equipment, and all items that are meant to support healthcare delivery and public health initiatives. The last one is the agric inputs. Certain agricultural inputs, such as seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, and equipment, are also given duty exemptions. In Chapter 99 of our tariff, most of you are familiar that we have the national list. These are items that have reduced import duty rates, and they are available to verifiable investors and manufacturers who require them as inputs. These are raw materials that are required for inputs in our production to promote and stimulate growth in these critical areas. We also have a number of incentives in the renewable energy sector. Fiscal policy measures support the importation of machinery and equipment for renewable solar energy. A lot has been talked about the automotive industry development and how we should also try to reposition and strengthen that industry. The Nigerian Automotive Industry Development Plan provides policies on CKDs and SKDs under Chapter 98 of our tariff for bona fide assemblers and manufacturers. And I'm happy to see so many of them here. I'm happy to see that they are doing well, and we promise them that hopefully we would be able to patronize them and proudly use some of their vehicles that are produced in Nigeria. There is also the VAT exemption. Imported raw materials and packaging materials for baby diaper manufacturers, for example, are exempted from VAT. Other ones include the sugar industry support and the recent approval by Mr. President, which has given approval for the removal of all goods that are imported. This used to be the case before, that when goods are imported, they should be exempted from export prohibition. Now, you do a lot of things in the importation of goods, and customs has put in a number of measures to facilitate import clearance of these goods in the ports. Some of you may be familiar with them. I just run through them for the sake of time. We have successfully piloted the Authorized Economic Operator Program, and this is giving some kind of VVIP status to importers who are admitted to this program so that they will not be delayed in the port. We also have the advanced ruling. The advanced ruling system helps to ensure predictability and achieve a high level of compliance while minimizing the costs and the time for conducting business. The third is the attention we are giving to our process of dispute resolution through the constitution of a new dispute resolution committee. In the past 3 years, we have successfully processed a total of 34 cases. We have resolved 31 out of those 34, and only 3 are pending. We are also deploying the use of non-intrusive inspection technology in our ports. We have recently launched a time-release study for us to identify areas within the clearance system where there are delays so that we'll be able to put solutions to those things. And finally, we are working with the Nigerian Port Authority to start 24-hour clearance of goods in our ports. Now, in terms of the exports ecosystem, we have a number of measures that are targeted towards exports. And of course, you know about the fact that we have a number of export processing zones. The export expansion grant is still in progress. And Nigeria Customs Service has now created and dedicated a command solely for the processing and documentation of export business in Nigeria. There are a number of other initiatives that we are doing, and this we are doing in conjunction with other agencies of government, particularly the Nigerian Export Promotion Council. Now, the current administration has shown sufficient political will to boost manufacturing and exports through its policy directive captured in the PAD document of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And this can be seen in the targets it has set to achieve the sector. And customs has decided to align itself and our policy towards all of this that you see on the slide. For the want of time, I may not want to go through all of them, but these are all areas, one way or the other, that affects the manufacturing section. We want to pay attention to our trading environment. We want to decongest the ports. We are working with a number of other agencies of government to do that. We are enforcing 48-hour clearance of goods, which has been espoused in the Executive Order 001. We want to launch single window. The minister talked about it earlier. And a number of other features you have seen on the. But let me talk about the renewed breath that has been given to the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council, which the minister talked about earlier. This council ranks agencies by activities under 8 broad indicator levels, including efficiency reforms based on service deliveries within stipulated timelines and transparency reforms. Just last week, the results of the 90-day cycle were published, and where Nigeria Customs was announced as the most improved agency, growing by 81.5% and moving 33 places to achieve the 100% mark alongside 4 other agencies of government. But the happiness for me is not about the fact that we moved 33 places and we scored 100%. I am particularly happy because in that ranking, in that PEBEC ranking that was recently released, when you take a good look at the agencies that are occupying the top 10 in that ranking, they are all agencies that has one thing or the other to do with manufacturing. So Customs is there, NPA is there, FIRS is there, NIMASA is there that regulates shipping, Nigeria Shippers Council is there. So we have all the incentives, and you can be sure that all of these agencies under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu are there to actualize his dream of repositioning the manufacturing sector. Now, I want to go to that section where we have a number of data on the current state of Nigerian trade activities on the African continent, particularly, and as captured by Nigerian Customs Service in the last 3 years. Our top 10 trading partners on the continent account for a substantial 78.28% of its import trade and an even more significant 95.83% of the export trade. This concentration of trade among just 18% of African countries, just about 10 out of 53, those are the major trading partners, indicates a high reliance on a few key trading partners, meaning that we are not spreading our options enough in the baskets that we have. Furthermore, it underscores the limited penetration of Nigeria's export goods into a broader range of African markets, reflecting opportunities for expanding trade relations and diversifying export destinations within the continent. In the absence of this, I'll just try to share some of this with you. Our trade with the African continent on the import side represents 4.73% of the nation's total trade value of 66.98 trillion in the last 3 years. South Africa is the leading import partner, and it contributes approximately 759 billion. And surprisingly, this is followed by our neighbors, Togo and Ghana, with 286 billion and 267 respectively. There are others in that category, including Cote d'Ivoire, Egypt, and Benin. And this reflects perhaps our diverse import sources within the continent. Now, the nature of that import from Africa is primarily focused on specialized maritime equipment, energy-related products, and raw materials that are critical for the industrial energy sector. So leading this list are light vessels, fire floats, floating cranes, and other unspecified vessels of HS code 8905, and they make together 10% of our total imports, valued at about 286 billion. Other significant imports include gas oil, accounting for 6.7%, floating or submersible drilling or production platform at 6.2%, and ordinary motor spirits at 5.1%. On the export side, our trade with the African continent accounts for only 10.4% of our total export value in the last 3 years. And South Africa is still the largest export destination with an impressive value of 3.41 trillion naira. After South Africa, we have Cote d'Ivoire and Senegal with export values of 2.28 trillion and 1.4 trillion respectively. The other ones are Togo, Namibia, and Ghana, which also indicates the fact that we are trying to diversify our export market. Now, our exports from Nigeria to other African countries are diverse, and they include heavy machinery, construction materials, and specialized food products. However, as we may all know, the most dominant export commodity is still petroleum oil and oils obtained from bituminous minerals, which is estimated at about 7.1 trillion naira, representing 74% of our total exports. So this means, I will be making some deductions. This means that there's still a lot of opportunities for manufacturers to take advantage of what is happening in the exports markets. Now, the challenges, because I'm a customs officer and I work with you all of the time, I know the challenges faced by the sector. Some of them have been identified. Perhaps the most critical one is the issue of the exchange rate fluctuations over the last 1 or 2 years. But I'm happy that my colleagues from central bank spoke before me, and you have already talked about the willing seller, willing buyer, whatever it means, meaning that they offer what they have, and you buy it at the market rate. However, I share the pain that the volatility in the exchange rate has created a lot of problems for our operators in the manufacturing sector. Between January and February 2024 alone, we recorded as much as 45% reduction in the cargo throughputs in our ports. Well, if we are pursuing revenue, we know what this means for us. I'm happy to inform you that through the intervention of the Minister of Finance and the Parliament, there is now a renewed attempt to work out between Nigeria Customs Service and the Central Bank of Nigeria spot rates that will be used that will enable manufacturers to have some degree of predictability in their business. The minister has also spoken about the move of Nigeria Customs Service to embrace better use of technology, which we hope to reduce the time it takes for us to do our business. And I know that another speaker has come before me. I might not be the last speaker. I need to quickly move to my recommendations. And I just proceed by talking about the fact that we recognize the impact of exchange rate fluctuation on manufacturing. Our discussion with Central Bank and the Minister of Finance will be sustained with a view to finding a lasting solution to this. The second one, we will continue to explore the use of technological advancements in customs operations. We're hoping that our customs modernization project would create the opportunity for us to do better in this area. We will continue our sensitization and awareness campaign, and of course, we will also want to engage more with Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. We will strengthen compliance and enforcement mechanism to ensure that we protect goods that are made in Nigeria so that they will not be imported or smuggled into Nigeria. Let me end with a number of deductions that I've made from the data that I shared with you earlier. The first one, whether we like it or not, Nigeria government is giving comprehensive incentives to strengthen the manufacturing sector. Even if they are not enough, the incentives have always been there. And I'm happy that the minister also announced that in the next few days, more of those incentives would be given to us. Number two, trade data is very, very important we seem not to pay enough attention to trade data in Nigeria. Ensuring the accuracy and integrity of this data is crucial for informed decision-making. The data captured by customs over the past 3 years highlights significant trading partnerships and trade volumes, which are essential for assessing economic performance, for planning, and identifying the opportunities for growth. The third message, there is high reliance on only a very few trading partners. Our trade is highly concentrated among a small number of African countries, with the top 10 partners accounting for as much as 78% of imports and 95% of exports. This reliance on a very few of them suggests potential vulnerability to market fluctuations in these countries and highlights our need to diversify our trade relationship to ensure a more stable economic growth. The fourth is that there is still a very significant trade imbalance with African countries. The data we just showed that Nigerian trade activities within Africa are more export-driven, 10.46% of total exports compared to 4.73% of imports. This imbalance suggests that Nigeria is a net exporter to the continent, particularly of crude oil. And because it is crude oil, it is actually not showing us the true picture. And we need to have strategies to balance this trade by increasing imports and diversifying exports for our benefits. The fifth is that there is opportunity for expanding trade and market penetration. The limited penetration of our export goods into a broader range of African markets reveals significant opportunities for all our manufacturers. The sixth is the dominance of energy-related imports and exports. Both Nigerian imports and exports are heavily dominated by energy-related products. On the import side, specialized maritime equipment and energy-related products are critical for the industrial sector. On the export side, crude oil overwhelmingly dominates, accounting for 74.2%. So our emphasis on the central role in the energy sector within Africa points to the importance to further develop our industrial and technological capacities to diversify our energy sector. And finally on this, I have the implication of PEBEC ranking. The recent announcements of customs as the most improved agencies, or rather, the inclusion of agencies that are involved in maritime sector can be attributed to a number of measures which customs has taken over the years. And we just want to let you know that we will continue to listen to you because we want to earn your trust and your confidence. I want to wrap my discussion on the last pillar of our relationship, which is stakeholder engagement. Nigeria Customs is engaging very new stakeholders, such as the Health Federation of Nigeria, that we had insufficient interactions with in the past. The objective here is to see how we can work together to make life easier for Nigerians. This model can also be adopted with other subgroups under the umbrella of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. We will not stop at just being announced as the most improved agency of government in Nigeria. We want that improvement to be cascaded down to every household in Nigeria. Now, as I leave the podium, two quick thoughts. Every customs officer, when you see us these days, we have a uniform code. There's the thing we wear, our caps, and things like that. Now, as the Controller General of Customs, because of the commitments that we have to join you in rethinking manufacturing, in the next few days, I will be challenging every customs officers and men to put on a manufacturing hat. We want to put your operation, we want to put your challenges, we want to put everything that you do, your aspiration, at the heart of our operation. So when we put on a manufacturing hat, we know where your shoe pinches. We know what your problems are, and we know how to work with you and solve those problems. Finally, sometimes in May 1971, the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria was founded. Some of the founding fathers we saw in the documentary, the role they played to lay the economic foundation for Nigeria. Nigeria Customs Service, on a day to be agreed with the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria, we pick a date in May and we will dedicate it as Manufacturers' Day. During this day, it will be an opportunity for us to engage, to listen to them, to know what their problems are, and to provide solutions to them. I wish you a successful conclusion of this summit. Thank you very much.
Let the distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I am not surprised at the standing ovation. I want to believe that the manufacturers in-house here today have received some of the things they are expecting. Permit me to say that when it comes to stakeholders' engagement, you cannot beat the Comptroller General of Customs, Mr. Adeni. I'm not surprised at all, given your background and your professionalism. Manufacturers' Hat and Manufacturers' Day, those are the things that he has dangled to us this as a mark of solidarity and as a mark of unification. And I think that is what we are actually expecting. We'll get there with time. Thank you so much for that wonderful speech. One of the things that the Comptroller General said, which caught my fancy, was the issue of trade data. And I think that is very, very important for us to take home and take note of. He has been able to also give us a lot of data. In other words, when you have data-driven decisions, you are likely to have a more reliable decision so that you will not be basing it on assumptions. So now he also talked about promoting goods that are made in Nigeria. And that is taking me to our next step. We were just about to round up the whole exercise today. But then we had the big masquerade. But another masquerade entered. So we'll give room for this new masquerade. But permit me before then to welcome, especially to this occasion, the Honorable Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Abubakar Kyari. You are most welcome. Permit me, Honorable Minister, that instead of, rather than sitting down, I know that you have a prepared speech, and I know that our time is fast spent. We'll see if you can, Honorable Minister, sir, just give us a few words from what you have to say, so that we will not say, I mean, you met us here. We know something must have kept you behind, but that you were able to make it here shows the level of commitment that you have shown to this occasion. So we'll give you 5 minutes, Honorable Minister, to say something. Thank you very much. Please, let's welcome him to the podium.
Yeah, so but what do you want us to do?
Okay, maybe just give us simple solidarity 1 minute. Then
Okay.
take it to
The President of the
Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, our elder statesman, Wakili Adama, CG Customs, and permit me to stand on the existing protocol already established. When I first came in, sorry for being late anyway, because I got held up in the traffic just around the police headquarters. But I was also told that I'm going to speak tomorrow, not today. And I was just trying to explain to the MC. And also, first of all, thank him for calling me a masquerade. CG is not a masquerade. I am probably a masquerade. But let me just say a word or two, and then I'll come back and deliver my address tomorrow. Just to say that I'm here in solidarity with manufacturing, because this is the in thing now. In agriculture, I think that's what we need to promote. Backward integration, forward integration, and what have you. This is the year and the time for Nigeria to industrialize 100% in terms of agriculture. Time is no longer on our side for us to be exporting raw materials, especially agricultural raw materials. We need to step up the game in terms of processing, and we're working assiduously with the National Assembly, which is, of course, my own constituency in the past, to see that we make enabling laws that will be friendly to the Nigerian agricultural space. And that is by industrializing and also setting up manufacturing processes so that we can add value to some of our agricultural potentials, the huge potentials that we have, and both for local consumption and also for export. So with these few words, I would just like to express my happiness and thank you for this opportunity. And I will be here again tomorrow to deliver my full address. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Please, can we appreciate him once more? I am happy that the minister said that he will be coming back here tomorrow. That means that we have actually given this a very good consideration. And we'll be expecting you tomorrow, sir, so that we'll take off with that. Tomorrow, we are going to be discussing most of these things that have been raised today, as I said earlier on. So we implore everybody to come around tomorrow. But then, when you see young people dancing and jumping up, you need to look behind them and know that there are some elders that are saying, go ahead, we are behind you. And as they say that all is well that ends well, I will have the honor and privilege to invite one of the elders in the house, a former president of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, and the Wakili Adamawa, Ambassador Azan Adamu, CON, to give the vote of thanks on this occasion. Please, ladies and gentlemen, help me to welcome Ambassador Azan Adamu to the podium. Okay, you can do it there. I'll bring the microphone to you. Oh, okay. You see, thank you so very much for this. Thank you very much, sir.
I think this is like right.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Your Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, ably represented by His Excellency, the Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima, GCOL. President of Manufacturer Association of Nigeria, President Aliko Dangote, Honorable Ministers, members of Diplomatic Corps, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, permit me to stand on the existing protocol. We began graciously, and we have ended today's session greatly. We therefore thank Almighty Allah for His graciousness, for good health, and for giving us the wisdom to host this summit. Our deepest appreciation goes to our President, His Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, Your Excellency, in the spirit of your magnificent and keen interest in developing our nation's manufacturing base, you have given us extraordinary support for this summit. Mr. President, your presence with us today is truly remarkable, and it portrays your firm determination to rescue manufacturing sector. We are indeed thankful to you for gracing us with your befitting presence. I would also like to extend our immense gratitude to His Excellency, the Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima, GCON. Your Excellency, despite your busy schedule, you made a way to be with us, to partner with us, and to ensure that we got the necessary support we needed to hold this session. Your office was open to us for all we needed, and we have enjoyed uncommon cooperation with your team. To our guest speaker, President Aliko Dangote, indeed we are grateful for your presence and contributions. We sincerely appreciate the momentous support we got from the presidency. Without the approval and the active participation of the presidency, this summit wouldn't have come to fruition at this critical time when our industry and economy needed it most. Your Excellency, we do not take your presence here with us today for granted. We are convinced that you will always answer our call when we call upon you